One of the most important inventions of early human history was a wheel and axle. Unlocking this simple machine opened the door to many more advanced engineering developments in transportation, commerce, and war. But its very first use was a pottery wheel. Today, we revisit the pottery wheel I made back when we were in the early Bronze Age, and we're going to make some improvements to it with the latest technologies we've unlocked, more refined steel tools, and Roman concrete. Then I take a crash course at ceramics and see if I can master this skill once and for all. Everything we use comes from 8,000 generations of collective innovation and discovery, but could an average person figure it all out themselves and work their way from the Stone Age to today? That's the question we're exploring. Each week I try to take the next step forward in human history. My name is Andy, and this is How to Make Everything. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next step in this journey. Thank you to Policygenius for sponsoring this video. Attempting to recreate modern society from scratch takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Sometimes the blood is not just metaphorical. I've had my fair share of scrapes and close calls, but luckily none yet that have punched my ticket. Nevertheless, it's always helpful to have a plan, and with Policygenius, making a plan is painless. Policygenius is your guide to get the right life insurance for your needs at the most competitive price. When you shop, you can save 50% or more on life insurance by comparing quotes with Policygenius. In minutes, you can work out how much coverage you need and compare personalized quotes to find your best price. And when you're ready to apply, the Policygenius will handle the paperwork and scheduling for free. Since their licensed experts work for you, not for the insurance companies, you can trust them to offer unbiased advice. And Policygenius will never sell your information to other companies. You could save $1,300 or more per year by using Policygenius. To compare life insurance policies, visit policygenius.com/htme to start comparing policies and saving today. Click the link in the description below to learn more. When we started the reset and began rebuilding civilization, I anticipated a big emphasis on metals and metal tools. What I didn't realize is that one of the first technologies we unlocked in our first episode, ceramics, would become and remain one of the most useful tools and materials. A material that can be molded into whatever shape you need very easily, then fired into a rigid and strong vessel. It's intensely useful. That void will likely not be filled, possibly not until we fully master glassblowing. But even then, ceramics will likely not lose its importance to us until we reach the invention of moldable plastics. So ceramics is pretty important. So before moving on to new materials like glass, let's master this one. On this channel, we tend to dive into new topics rather harshly and never have a chance to really perfect them. In today's video, we want to revisit one of these topics and see if we can get a more refined result. So while my first attempt at a pottery wheel succeeded at spinning, it lacked enough speed and momentum to really be effective as a real pottery wheel. The easiest solution to this is to add additional weight to the wheel. Fortunately, in a recent episode, we explored the process of making Roman concrete. So with this ancient technology unlocked, we can now cast the bottom portion of the kick wheel in concrete.
That holds. Not too bad.
Once dried and cured, I burned out the piece of wood I used to place hold the center hole. Unfortunately, some thin spots in the concrete caused gaps and cracking, so did a quick patch job with some additional cement and wrapped the cylinder in rope to help reinforce it. With a coating of cement to hold everything in place. Next was the wheel surface itself. I previously coated it in wax, but everything ended up a bit off kilter. With it level and smooth, I use a combination of olive oil and beeswax as a sealant, giving it a nice waterproof finish. To learn how to better use this more effective wheel, I made a video chat with the person who helped me construct the wheel in the first place, Dax.
Hi, I'm Dax Gazway. I'm mostly a full-time teacher, but in my spare time I do pottery, and I've been doing that for a little over 30 years now. I'm also very interested in ancient techniques and ancient craftsmanship. In my spare time, I've done some Renaissance festivals, and I've made a demonstration kick wheel representative of those times. Now, I had the luxury of being able to hide some modern equipment in it. So yeah, when you talked about doing this actually from scratch, that sounded like an amazing challenge to me.
The updated version with some tweaks. We now have the Roman concrete for the base. Gives it a lot more weight, makes it spin a lot better.
Absolutely. I'd say your first attempt when you made that was a great first attempt, and what you made was called a slow wheel. Now what you've made is called a fast wheel. And that's where industrial technology really took off. Your progress has been amazing.
That's the goal.
So essentially you're going to be like kneading dough. When you knead dough, you're trying to work air into it. You're trying to squish air out of it. So you're just going to use the heels of your hands. There you go. And then flip it over. Yeah. And the reason you do that is bubbles will throw off the center because they're not as heavy as clay. You do have to be very careful that you're not folding air pockets into it. So after your clay kind of feels like it, we call it awake, spend a few extra seconds slapping that as close as you can get, perfect sphere, very lightly, just damply wet the wheel head. Slap that down in the center, like that. So now what you're gonna do is called slap centering. Slowly rotate and slap and slap and slap. It should look as uniform as absolutely possible as you go through. Anywhere it pushes your finger out, that needs to be slapped in. There we go. Yeah. If you look at that circle, everything inside that circle is already centered. To center now, you're going to need to get the wheel speed up, lock your hands like this, and like you're making an eagle essentially. This is going to feel weird, but put your elbows basically touching your hip bones. You're locking your elbow to the center mass of your body. Then you'll just lean in and hold your arms as still as you possibly can. Push in and down. If you could get it up, like ideally 300 RPMs is what we use on electric, but as fast as you can with as much momentum as you can. In the olden days, they would have an apprentice do the kicking.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I need one of those.
And the other thing about centering is until you're centered, don't move on. There you go. So you're moving the clay around again instead of it moving you around. And actually doing great. Oh, and make sure you're adding water. It should be slippery wet all the time. You can be very nearly there for a long time. And this definitely, you'll feel this in your thigh tomorrow. Potters all have one massive leg. Does it feel centered to you?
I think so. I gotta do it.
Push in with your thumbs. Okay, yep, that's it. You're getting a little wobble there. At each stage, it gets harder and harder to recenter. And then from the outside, you're gonna push in. Yep. And you're trying to support. Oh, you may lose this one. Yep, it's gonna go. And I don't think there's much we can do about it now. So, great lesson. You actually did very well for working on a kick wheel. So yeah, as they say in the business, do about 100 more of those, you'll do fine.
Okay.
It's like, learning to ride a bike. Once you get it, it'll be fun. But for now, it's just frustration.
Dax has an Etsy store for some of his ceramic work. Definitely worth checking out to see some of his personal works. Looking to go even deeper, we next recruited the help of a local ceramic artist to both try out my wheel and see if he could give me any more hands-on tips.
My name's Francis. I started sandwich about 4 years ago, and I've been throwing for about 8, so I just took a course at the U of M. I ended up liking it, and I just didn't stop. I make functional pottery primarily, so anything that's thrown on the wheel. I do a little bit of hand building, but things like dinnerware settings and planters and anything you'd use a pot for, pretty much. Anyone can do it. It can also easily frustrate you, which is something you just can't give into initially. Right? There's a learning curve for everything, so. Oh, all right. Yeah, we can get something out of this. I hope. I love sandwiches. I don't think anybody doesn't like, well, there are people who don't like sandwiches, but that's not my my people, I guess. A good sandwich goes a long way. It is gonna be tough. I'm gonna say that. See, there's wiggle in the wheel. All right, so let's just get into it. The one thing I am noticing is the wheel itself moves quite a bit. And this can just be kind of difficult for throwing because whenever we're trying to center something and we've got kind of lateral forces going on whenever we're applying pressure, it'll tend to put the piece off of center, right? So it's probably gonna be pretty difficult to actually get a large piece out of. We can try to do something, and I'm sure we can bust out something, even if it's a little bit of a smaller piece. Yeah. It spins, right? So typically with kick wheels, we want to do all of our kicking separate from the time that we're applying pressure. So even if my hands are on the pot, they won't be applying pressure when we're kicking, just because it'll make it more off balance, right? But let's try and get something out of it. So we just got like a pound of clay here. We'll smack it down in the center, apply some water so that we don't get any friction with our fingers. And then we're gonna try and center this. Now it's slowing down quick. This is a pretty interesting setup. But I think I might have to be kind of kicking it while we're centering, which does a lot with our stability, but we can kind of get something out of this. So I'm applying pressure on the side and on the top with my right hand, and it's kind of centered. So now let's go ahead and open it up. Use my thumb for that. I'm gonna open it out. This really works your legs, wow. Okay, so now we're gonna pull up those walls if we can. And I'm applying pressure from the inside with some fingers and the outside. And I'll do a second pull here if I can do it. Oh. And we can maybe pull it out into a little bit more of a bowl shape here. I would probably rate this primitive.
It's a real show of your skill that you're able to make something.
We managed it. Nice. Go ahead and we got our left hand pressure from the side and our right hand pressure from the top. So try using the meat of your palm on top. Yeah, and then so that you're not wearing out your fingers, lap those thumbs together. Okay. This is gonna be a nice stable position versus pressing on these more malleable digits. Okay. Nice, it's looking good. So I'd use a little more water, see how dry it is. Keep the lubricated, frictionless lump. It's another good band name. We're just gonna enter the piece, just go straight down into the middle and then leave a little breathing room on the bottoms. Yeah, it's a tough one. There you go. Yeah, this is gonna be tough.
To help speed things along, we had Francis center another batch of clay for me.
Whenever you kick it, it's all over the place. So to not even trying to touch it when you're kicking it, then when you have that little window, that's when you'd apply your pressure. There you go, right in the center. So much better, that looks great. So it looks like you're opening up now to get a little more width, and now you can go ahead and try and pull up the walls. That looks great.
Definitely something. Stop pulling my head. Next, gave Francis another shot at the wheel to see what he could do.
Oh, sure. Got my depth here. Get a little bit of width by opening up the donut. Start with my thumbs maybe, a little more stable. Try and get some height. Which means we get a wonkier pot, but that's okay.
Extra character.
This is definitely the most dynamic wheel I've thrown on. Woo! Oh, that might have dewonked the rim a little bit. That might be it. A little bit bigger. Yeah. I think it is a little bit tough for somebody who's maybe just beginning because the wheel head is moving so much. A pretty central part of throwing is keeping your piece of clay in the center. So if you're just learning, it's going to be really difficult to learn on this wheel, but I think it is a functioning wheel. I mean, we pulled out some pots on it. You get more of a natural feeling, right? With a kick wheel, you're making your own propulsion, but you've kind of just got to go with the wheel speed and kind of increase and decrease your pressure as it slows down. It's just a little wobbly. So I'm sure there's a better way to secure that, maybe with like a steel pole or something, but if you're making it, that's kind of tough, right?
Yeah.
So
I think I might try varying the pole and see if I get a much better result with that.
Yeah.
This was really satisfying to like see actually throw with it. Like it felt like it worked. I just didn't know how to use it, and now it's nice to actually have like it does work.
Yeah. This is going back to basics. So we're getting dirty.
In our next episode, we're exploring the firing process a little deeper. So far, we've mostly stuck to the primitive pit firing method, but with a more successful and long-term goal of glass in our sights, we need to become experts at the art of making things hot, this time building a more permanent kiln. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and check out other content we have covering a wide variety of topics. Also, if you've enjoyed these series, consider supporting us on Patreon. We are largely a fan-funded channel and depend on the support of our viewers in order to keep our series going. Thanks for watching.